very much, if you're looking at this $450,000 and thinking, oh, why did they offer that? I think it's important that we understand first, a good lawyer is gonna stop their client from running a big bill unnecessarily. And also a good lawyer knows when to settle low. And that's very much what they did with this dispute. I don't know what damages that Tracy Chapman was going to try and sue for. I don't know what damages she could even quantify. And quantify means, can they calculate the amount? I don't know how they were going to calculate Tracy Chapman's loss. I'm not saying that she didn't have any. I'm just saying I didn't know how they were going to go about calculating it. But for Nicki to do a settlement of $450,000 inclusive of all legal fees is a pretty good out. It's a pretty good out for her. Not perfect, because ideally you don't want to pay a thing, but versus the cost of going to trial, this was a pretty solid and sensible decision to make for the client. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is No Ghostwriter. Follow no_ghostwriter on Twitter and Instagram for 24/7 rap and hip hop talk. And be sure to leave a comment, like this video, and subscribe if you like what I'm talking about today. So today I am following up from my video on Tracy Chapman and Nicki Minaj's copyright battle over the 2018 song Sorry, which was scrapped from the Queen album and featured Nas. The song was the subject of a copyright dispute because it ended up being played by DJ Funk Flex on the radio and hadn't actually had the sample been cleared by Tracy Chapman. So it meant that there was a legal situation brewing. But what made it really interesting was the question. So because Nicki had never actually published the song or made it available for sale, Tracy Chapman attempted to get copyright infringement for the fact that Nicki even made a song using her sound, which stepped on the toes of experimentalism and was very much the argument that Nicki and her legal team brought back. And if you want to see that, check that video out on my channel. It's very detailed and it will cover things, and this video is sort of like a part 2 to that one. And also I thought I'd make it really clear that in this case no one has necessarily won or lost. There were limited amounts of questions that this case was set out to answer because the parties were agreed as to facts. So if you think about it in a sense that when you've got a dispute between people, if they agree on the material facts or some very important facts, it means that it limits the conclusions that the court can draw about any particular thing. So in the Tracy Chapman Nicki Minaj dispute, it was an agreed fact that the song was played by DJ Funk Flex on the radio. But what wasn't an agreed fact was how the song got into DJ Funk Flex's possession. He denied that it came directly from Nicki Minaj. She denied having given it to him. But the second part of this case, the one decided after the first part, which I covered in that first video, concerned this question: how did Flex get that song in his hands? Because it was agreed between the parties that he definitely did get the song. And so that's what made this case really interesting, because Nicki won the first part. She won the argument on copyright. She won the argument in defense of mixtapes and experimentalism in the studio. She got that big win. But the second part of this case, and it was looking like it was going to go to trial, was this question of how did Flex get the tapes? Now, this is where you start to see good quality lawyering come in. I am a future barrister in England. I've talked about that, and I'm obsessed with law. So I'm not American trained, but it's simple. If your client is gonna run up a very big bill, going to court, going to trial on an issue, and it's in their better interest to settle, then it's better to settle. And if there's anything that you think is gonna possibly be out if your client's interest, it may also be in the best interest to settle. I know when people think about court, they think, you know, everybody gets in there and they, you know, fight it out and the lawyers shout and whatever, but a lot of cases are settled outside of court. And actually in England, the courts prefer you to try and achieve a settlement. They kind of don't really want you to just go to trial all the time because it's expensive. So very much, if you're looking at this 450,000 and thinking, oh, why did they offer that? I think it's important that we understand first, a good lawyer is gonna stop their client from running a big bill unnecessarily. And also a good lawyer knows when to settle low. And that's very much what they did with this dispute. I don't know what damages that Tracy Chapman was gonna try and sue for. I don't know what damages she could even quantify, and quantify means, can they calculate the amount? I don't know how they were going to calculate Tracy Chapman's loss. I'm not saying that she didn't have any, I'm just saying I didn't know how they were going to go about calculating it. But for Nicki to do a settlement of $450,000 inclusive of all legal fees is a pretty good out. It's a pretty good out for her. Not perfect, because ideally you don't want to pay a thing, but versus the cost of going to trial, this was a pretty solid and sensible decision to make for the client. So that's why, you know, when you take it a look back and you look at it with your lawyer head on like I do, you can definitely see that there is a smart move that was made. It doesn't necessarily mean that there was a win or a loss. No court has currently come to a finding over how Funk Flex came to be in possession of the song. That's not been a question that legally has ever been decided or put to proof. So because that question has never been decided and put to proof, you know, Tracy Chapman hasn't laid out, I mean, she has in this, you know, the summary documents, but in terms of laying out, you know, all of the different pieces of evidence that they say that there is a lot of against, you know, Nicki for the sake of how did Funk Flex get it, it makes sense that that isn't an ideal, you know, scenario for your client. Why would you do that when you could just settle low and just handle it? So that's why you'll see people make offers like this, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they lost, and it doesn't mean that they couldn't have won. It's just that's what lawyers do. We assess the risk and we can know whether it's worth it in terms of the litigation process. That's what we're good at, you know, in the courtroom. So I wanted to talk about that just because I think it's important that we understand that the music industry is fascinating and complex, and the law of creative intellectual property and protecting it and everything is what I'm interested in and what I want to do. So I really enjoy talking about this, and I'd happily talk about it again. And these things are very integral to the culture, very integral. And if we don't understand our legal rights and we don't understand, you know, how the law is likely to be enforced, then it makes it difficult to navigate with confidence. So all in all, this was a really interesting case. I like the fact that you know, it was super interesting from a legal perspective. You know, when Nicki won the copyright angle of this case, it was very, very interesting, and I really enjoyed reading into that. Yeah, so I love talking about this. I'll happily talk about these topics all day. If there are any interesting sort of legal things and developments going on in the music industry and the rap and hip hop world, let me know. I really enjoy investigating them, even if it is US law. I hope you enjoyed this update on the Tracy Chapman case. If you want to see some links on where you can learn more about the case, I'll put them below, and I've also links to my Tracy Chapman videos. Well, I hope that you enjoyed that update about the Tracy Chapman and Nicki Minaj case. Now it's settled. There's not going to be any much more on it. But check out my video on my channel into the case and the first part of the dispute which Nicki won on the copyright and experimentation question. Especially if you're a musician, I think you'll find that really interesting. Let me know, leave comments. I love reading your comments. You guys have got the best comments on YouTube, hands down. So make sure you do that. Leave a like and make sure you subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Peace out.